Hello, Internet. Um, my name is Joe. I'm just a guy in the world who is just a truck driver in the Midwest. I have this independent project that I've been doing for the past 2.5 years, and I just wanted to talk about trying to do your own thing in the world. So, like, being independent in that and not being attached to, a corporation that has money and whatnot, and all of the struggles and doubts that come with that territory. So I wrote down a little bit of what I wanted to talk about because I have been getting caught up and stuck in a rut where for the past 2.5 years I've been working with amazing artists on this comic book, my own comic book that is inspired by anime, and I'm really proud of the book. It turned out rather well. Uh, Here is the book: Warwick Chapter Zero Part One, Warwick Chapter Zero Part Two. Um, the It's like 150 pages in total, right? It was a long project. It's been in the work for 2.5 years. I don't know if I said that already, but like it's been a 2.5 year project. And so like I'm coming up to the finish line. And we want to run a Kickstarter campaign for this comic. And by we I mean I. Um and I just keep getting stuck, and I don't know if there's anyone else, and there's probably someone else out there that can relate to and um understand what I'm going through, right? So the first thing I wanted to talk about is being stubborn. So this is kind of a weird one where you're like, "Hey, what's your experience?" Well, I'm stubborn. How has that impacted me? It's impacted me in the sense that the natural response for most people is, "I want to do this." Well, have you like I want to write a comic or a manga or whatever, right? I want to write a story. I want to get it published. Okay, have you reached out to a publisher? That's really the first response that most people have is just go to a publisher, they'll publish it, they'll figure it out for you. Me, I'm stubborn. I am very stubborn. I have a big dream that I want to accomplish. I want to be able to tell my stories and for my stories to be able to fund themselves and to eventually turn my comics and my stories into animation or live action shows. That is ultimately my goal. That's what I want to do. I love storytelling, and I love the emotional weight of the stories and how they can get you to really empathize with an idea or a person or a situation. They can really get you to think. And in my experience, that is what I have gotten from a lot of amazing stories. Oops, excuse me, in many mediums. And I want to do that with my own stories for the world. But as big of a dream as that is, you just gotta jump into the fire, right? And so this is where being stubborn really burned me. Being stubborn, I don't know, I didn't know a single thing about I still don't know much about like, starting up a company and just doing the self-publishing myself, right? I was afraid that if I went to a publisher, they would want me to change my story where I want my stories to be what I want them to be. And the only way I can get that type of control over my stories is to do it my way. But the downside is that I have to spend my personal resources, my money that I work for, and extra time in my free time to make these stories and to make them happen. And then I have to collaborate with artists because I am not as good as other people when it comes to doing art. They can do it fast, efficiently, and cleanly. It would take me too many years at this point to get trained to their level. And so being stubborn, it's like I threw myself in the fire and it's oh man, it's hurt. It's hurt, man. I mean, it's not like Deadpool bad. It's not like, oh my god, call an ambulance. He's on there. He's dying, right? Like it's nothing like that. It's just feeling like a blanket of fire smothering you, and you not wanting to leave that blanket because the rest of the world is so cold, right? It's like it's either frostbite or a blanket of fire. Is what it feels like to me at some times, right? I don't know if anybody can relate to that, but that's the best way I can describe it on the spot, right? And having to go through this independent process is, oh boy, it it is something. Let me tell you something. You will learn by being stubborn. You will learn by being stubborn. If you are capable of learning and if you are capable of being stubborn, you will learn lessons and you will learn them fast. Especially when you don't have to when you have to rely on your own money and your own time to get something done, you will make sure that you learn. That is something that I have learned in this process. But it's just it makes life a little tougher. Obviously, I walked into this willingly, right? And so like my stubbornness is also it's a minor part of this. But it does lead into some other things. It does feel like I feel like I've put this weight on myself as well. I feel like with the amount of money that I've invested into this comic, which, by the way, comics are extremely expensive to make, as I found out. I did not know that there are multiple people just for one page of a book. So, yeah, you got to pay like two or three people at minimum to do a page for a book because there's somebody who specializes in the sketches, like the penciling. There's somebody who specializes in inking the pencils. There's somebody who specializes in coloring and shading. Sometimes there's somebody who just applies like a flat layer of colors. So sometimes there's like a second person on coloring, then somebody who really cleans it up and makes it look beautiful, and then somebody who does the lettering, like the thought bubbles and the speech bubbles and whatnot, right? And oh, chill. But it's sorry. um, it was a learning process, and then the printing process, right? It's like I I don't know anybody who in my personal life who I've physically met, right, who has gone through this process. And it makes me feel so alone. It makes me feel like if I tell somebody what this feels like and the pressure that I've put on myself, that a lot of the times they really it's hard to understand. It's not like it's their fault for not understanding. It's just tough to understand because you haven't actually experienced it and how it made you feel, right? And it's tough. It's tough to want to do something, do it your own way, have to learn multiple aspects from multiple areas, and to feel like you have to do it on your own. You have to spend your own money. And look, and I don't want this. I hope this does not come off as me just complaining, like, oh my god, it's so tough. The world is cruel. Everything should be given for free. No, that's not what I want people to think from this, right? I It's hard to express, but I just want to express it because it's weighing me down. And I just want to know that there are people out there who have been through this process. Maybe not even directly in comics, but like creating your own card game, creating your own board game, like creating your own like nail company or like your own salon, doing something from the ground up by yourself, not knowing a damn thing. Because we always hear of those success stories where people talk about, well, this person, they worked their butt off. They worked their butt off and they made things work. And, no matter what came at them, they kept pushing. A lot of the times, those people get pushed down and they stay down for a little bit, right? Right? I don't know. Because we romanticize the heroes and the people who have achieved these amazing things. But we don't really know for sure unless it comes from their mouth. And even then, we may not know for sure what their mental state was. And I'm like, it's just it's a lot, and I don't know if I'm on the right path. This may not even be the right path for me. I love storytelling, but this may not be, this this fantasy series with with superpowers and whatnot. It may not be the road for me. I don't regret making it. I mean, I really do appreciate all of the support that I've gotten from friends and family, and from a few people on the internet. I'm not like some giant influencer who has like hundreds of thousands or like millions of views or anything, or subscribers. I'm like, at most I have like 140 followers on like Instagram. So like, I'm not a big person at all. I'm a small fish. I'm a tiny fish in a small pond, you know? And I am appreciative of the people who have supported me and want me to succeed. And maybe this is just a me thing. Maybe it's just in my nature to think this way. Okay. So this may not even be the normal way of thinking. But a lot of the thoughts that come to my mind tend to be, do the people in my life want me to succeed because they like me as a person? Or do they want me to succeed because they believe I can succeed through merit? And it's hard to know. It's hard to know. And when I tell people about this, they're like, oh no, of course you're going to succeed. Like, how many people actually follow through with the thing that they want to pursue in life? Not a lot. You're going to succeed. It's going to be all right. How do you know? For every successful story, for every successful like person, like homegrown hero who like worked their way up through the world and did what it took to get to the top, there's got to be at least 10,000 to 100,000 people who failed. And me and my competitive spirit, and I don't want to fail, but I have to accept the fact that there is the possibility, that there's a likely possibility that I will not succeed. And having to accept that reality really puts me down. It really puts my spirits down. It makes me think, well, what's the point? If it's likely that I'm not going to succeed or I'm going to see success, and obviously, however you define success, right? For me, I define success as like, if my book were to be successful, it would make its money back. That's it. It would make its money back and make a little bit extra, enough to fund another book. That's my definition. It's tough to balance the emotion of like, of being a failure or being somebody who couldn't make it in the world. It's tough. And I'm struggling because like, I've done everything I wanted to for the project except for run a Kickstarter campaign, run a crowdfunding campaign. And I didn't realize how much went into it. Like, having to get a video ready so a video fits, which it's not uploading, so that's enough. So that's pretty discouraging, right? Um, Having to make sure that it's appealing, that it's spaced well, that it's engaging, it's easy to read, it's easy to understand, that the prices are relatively consistent and people would want to pay for it. Having to shipping. Oh my god, shipping. That's frustrating. That's frustrating, right? Stuff like that. And then like when you start up a Kickstarter campaign, you have to give them like account information. If you were to succeed, where would this money go? And so it's like, oh well, for tax, now you got to think about tax purposes, right? Because let's say that like my goal is over $10,000 for this book, right? Let's say I were to get to that goal, I have to file that for taxes. So it's like, do I have it go to my personal account where my money came out of, where the money that went into this project came out of, or do I open a business account with a bank so then it can be written off as a tax? It's like I don't understand this stuff. I'm a creative person. I want to tell stories. But feeling like I'm alone and having to take on these other jobs that I am not knowledgeable in and that I would rather not do, it's just, I feel like I'm dragging my feet. And when I'm dragging my feet, I feel like I'm not making any progress, any significant progress. I'm not crossing the finish line for this goal. I feel like I'm so close to it. And whether the timing for the race, the finish line, whatever, whether it goes out right before I cross or whether I cross it and I keep going and I'm in first place, whether I'm in 34th place, whatever. I don't know if I'm really ready. It's it's tough because so many people make it seem like maybe I'm too much of an overthinker, but many people just make it seem like either it's impossible or it's completely possible, but they don't know how much work it's going to take. Like anyone could say, "Oh, it's going to take a lot of work. You're going to have to work hard." Excuse me, but I don't think a lot of people understand how many different areas you have to invest into or learn in order to really be successful. I didn't When it came to like making this book, I jumped into it with just I want to make a story and my artist is down. Let's make a story. Right? I just want to have fun and I love the creative process with him. I didn't think I sort of knew I would get into printing the book myself. So I was prepared for that. Was I prepared for calculating shipping costs? Yeah, I didn't think about it too much, but I was like, yeah, I'll have to do this at some point, right? That makes sense. If I want to run a Kickstarter campaign, I got to get it out to people, and it's a physical product. That makes sense. Did I think I would have to start up my own business to do it? At the time, I didn't know. Did I think I would have to consider taxes at all? No. Did I did I consider having to open up to get bank information to Kickstarter? No. Did I consider having to get the bag and board for the books? No. There Did I consider that I would need multiple artists for this single project? Hell no. Did I consider how much I would have to read in order to get a better understanding for comics instead of just jumping into it? No. There's Did I think I would have to keep track of all expenses meticulously? No. I knew I'd have to keep track of them, but oh my god, like every little purchase, really? Ugh, dude, it just it's so much. It is so much. I just ugh. I don't want to see it fail. I don't want to see this fail. But I I don't know. I'm afraid of the failure that's going to come from this. I'm glad I learned everything I learned, but I'm afraid. I'm afraid of failure. I did not realize the path to being independent and successful as an indie creator would be this difficult. Which is weird to say because it's easy to get into, right? Which sounds a little weird, right? How is it easy to get into, but hard to actually do? The opportunities are there. The internet has made everything so much easier to connect to other people, to get them hyped up, to start communities and whatnot. But the amount of work to be able to do that, whoo, figuring it out and experiencing it firsthand is tough. It's I feel like I put the weight of the world on my shoulder, the weight of my world on my shoulders, right? It's I don't know. I'm just I'm just kind of ranting at this point. I feel like I've made the same statement like over and over again, but man, it's how I feel, man. Being independent, the struggles that come with, I didn't realize how expensive this would be. But I don't know. It's just sometimes I feel like I'm alone in actually doing this. That and I think it's just cuz I don't have those connections yet for people who've been through the same thing, who realize how hard it would be and push through. It's tough when you feel like you're alone even though you know you're not. And especially when you have people in your life cheering you on for following your dreams and you don't want to let them down. You don't want to fail in front of them, especially when they see your potential and they tell you that they know you're going to be successful. You don't want to let them down. It adds to that pressure. It it adds more weight uh, to the situation. I don't know. Maybe I'm being too overdramatic. Maybe I'm just completely overthinking this. Regardless, I need to get this Kickstarter campaign up and running, and I need to figure my shit out. Um, yeah, if you got to this point in the video, thank you. Thanks for just listening to me. It's tough to stay positive, but we gotta have hope that we can make this work. So we're gonna do this. We're gonna do this. Thank you. Um, yeah, thank you.